serving arrest warrants, you could possibly see some civil unrest. And if that happens, it could get nasty. Now, the reason God is saying this now is so that the army of God can engage now, because we can mitigate that in the spiritual realm. It's our job as the army of God to blaze a trail in the spiritual realm so that it does not manifest in the natural. So if these civil unrests begin to take place, don't focus on the storm, don't focus on the obstacles, focus on the mission.
You're looking at live pictures out of Charlottesville, Virginia. This is where violent clashes have broken out between white nationalists and counter-protests there. Joining me on the phone right now to give us a sense of what's going on the ground is CBS News justice reporter Paula Reed. Paula, these protests have really escalated today. What are you seeing and what can you tell us?
Rena, this is a very tense situation. We were here just 6 weeks ago when the Ku Klux Klan came to town to protest the fact that the city is trying to take down a statue of Robert E. Lee. At that time, there were about 1,000 counter-protesters and about 40 Klansmen. But today is a completely different situation. There are well over 1,000 people here representing several different groups. You have people just representing the Confederacy. You have people representing Black Lives Matter. You have anti-fascist groups. And so far, it has been somewhat violent. There has been tear gas. There has been pepper spray. There have been a lot of objects being thrown.
Cities, the state filing a lawsuit together with the city of San Francisco. State Attorney General Xavier Becerra, saying that the president's vow to end funding for sanctuary cities is bullying and would violate the rights of California residents.
It is hard to believe that now that the federal government would try to jeopardize those crime-fighting funds simply because it wishes to pressure local governments to do their bidding on federal immigration law.
The warfare he's experiencing is simply because it's a couple different reasons. One is all through history, our presidents have been taking orders. They haven't been giving them. They've been taking them from people behind the shadows. And what you're seeing now come forth is someone who's not going to be doing that. You're seeing someone that is true leadership on his own, which scares the enemy to death. The second reason I believe that he's being attacked so much is because he has literally, the enemy has a timeline. God has his timeline, the enemy has his. This has totally wrecked the enemy's timeline as far as what they're trying to do. And he has stepped in the way and they're not liking it. Take these prophetic words, pray over them, war with them in the spiritual realm, because these are about the judges, about removing the judges, removing these corrupt senators. Yes. God is purging the land right now.
Firefighters say there was an error with a fire suppression system that set off all that foam. Crews did quickly find the people who were trapped. Local media outlets say 2 of them were hospitalized after inhaling the substance, but they're expected to be okay.
All eyes in the state of Alabama today. Voters head to the poll for a special Republican primary. The vacant seat left by Attorney General Jeff Sessions is now up for grabs. And with this race testing the reach of the president, the reach of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who both have endorsed Luther Strange. My guest now, President of the Senate Leadership Fund and former Chief of Staff to Mitch McConnell, Stephen Law, in studio. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
What do you think this election means right now, not knowing clearly the outcome?
Well, obviously, the election result will tell us a lot. Right now, we're just guessing, obviously, but I think it's going to be a major test of the power of Donald Trump's endorsement. He came in somewhat late, endorsed Luther Strange at a point where Luther Strange was well behind Roy Moore. We think that Luther Strange is surging, probably pulled even with Roy Moore, and will definitely be in a runoff with Moore as a result of the president's endorsement.
Right now, it's a tight race, right?
Right.
Would you
Yes.
you would concede that?
Absolutely.
And if you don't get to 50%, there's going to be a runoff in September.
That's correct, yeah.
All right. Now, does Mitch McConnell help Luther Strange in Alabama?
Certainly his group is helping Luther Strange a great deal. We've been in there mostly talking about Mo Brooks, but then in the last week we've been spending a lot of time talking about Luther Strange and Donald Trump's endorsement of him, and we hope that helps push him across the finish line.
Which is my next question. How much of an endorsement does Donald Trump do for Luther Strange?
Well, if Alabama voters know about it, and I think they're going to know about it, both with our advertising and with what the president is doing himself, it's a huge impact. Donald Trump is very popular in the South. In Alabama, in our last poll, Donald Trump had an 85% approval rating among primary voters. So I'd say he packs a big wallop in that state.
Right. Here's where things get a little confusing, and I don't want to say squishy, but maybe squishy too politically as well. The president tweeted this a bit earlier today on screen. Big day in Alabama. Vote for Luther Strange. He will be great. In the meantime, here's a political ad from Mo Brooks as well that runs the following way.
They fight to keep the 60% rule that kills your agenda. I sure don't. McConnell and Strange are weak, but together we can be strong.
That's the guy who's also driving around the state in a bus that says "Drain the Swamp Express."
Right.
That's a Trump message.
Well, Mo Brooks is in a very tough spot because all during the presidential campaign last year, he was strongly anti-Trump. He's been anti-Trump at different points of this campaign as well, and it's a really tough problem that Mo Brooks has. So the only thing that he can do is to go after Senator McConnell. We think that it's not going to play. We think that that's not a message that will resonate with Alabama voters. They're going to be very interested in who their president supports and the fact that Luther Strange is on the president's
Things
side.
get even murkier now. Mark Levin, a radio host, tweeted the following. Here's hoping Mo Brooks supporters in Alabama turn out in large numbers to vote today and defeat McConnell's lapdog, Luther Strange. How are Republican voters expected to understand this?
Well, I think voters sort it out. They almost always do in every election, and they usually kind of look at the most critical issues that matter to them. And they care about their president, they care about who he supports and who supports him, and that's Luther Strange. Mo Brooks and his allies have focused a whole lot on Mitch McConnell, and we think that it just reflects the fact that they have a very beltway mentality that is not going to resonate with Alabama voters and what they care about.
Roy Moore is the Alabama Chief Justice who made a lot of headlines 10 years ago on the Ten Commandments. And that was an issue that Southern conservatives rallied around. Does he have much hope of winning today?
Well, he will almost certainly be in the runoff if Luther Strange doesn't get to 50%, and we think it'll probably be a runoff. He's not currently the Chief Justice. He lost his job. He's actually lost it twice. But you're right, he does have a base of support that is significant in the state, but we also think that he's probably hit a ceiling. His numbers have hardly changed at all over the last few weeks, and we think that reflects the fact that all of the vote share that he's gotten is what he's going to get. He's not going to be able to build enough so if he's running against Luther Strange in the runoff, will be successful.
Give me a sense overall for how folks in Alabama who were on board the Trump train early, when you think about Jeff Sessions, when you think about that overwhelming primary victory that the president won in Alabama early on during the campaign, are they still with him? And if so, by how much?
They're very much with him. We polled a lot during this whole campaign, and they're sticking with their man. They like him. They like what he stands for. They don't like every single thing that he does, and they were a little bit nervous about the fight that he had for a little bit with his attorney general, the beloved Jeff Sessions, who's also admired a great deal in the state. But they're very strongly with him. They like the fact that Luther Strange was consistently with them all throughout, and they really don't like the fact that Mo Brooks was a fair weather friend. In fact, mostly an enemy, and that has only recently tried to ally himself with
If you've polled on this, then just to nail down a number, if they were 90% before with him, what are they now with him?
Yeah, no, they're between 85 and 90% are supportive of him among Republican primary voters. We didn't test the whole state, but among Republican primary voters, they're standing with Trump.
We shall see. They're voting in Alabama. Stephen Law, thank you for your time.
Thanks, so.
Great to see you in person.
Great to see you.
This third objective, which is going to be arrest warrants that are going to be handed down because God is pouring out divine justice on the land. It's not coming, it's here.
Well, another big story we are watching this morning, the fight for Jeff Sessions' seat in Alabama unfolds today.
Since I took Jeff Sessions' place in February, I've done everything you could possibly do to support the president's agenda, and believe me, that's what the people of Alabama want to see. President Trump's endorsement will be incredibly important because people want his agenda passed. I want his agenda passed, and I couldn't be more honored that he has given me his endorsement and full support.
They were trying the Islamization of America by 2021, according to one author of a book that just got released.